Hey everybody, happy Wednesday. Good to see you guys here. Hope everybody's having a good week so far. I just got back from the ASTA conference in Orlando, Florida. ASTA is the American String Teachers Association. So I had a chance to hang out with Mark Wood and Andrew Glasser and the folks from Yamaha and the folks from Gava Violins and the folks from Kodabow. And who else was out there? The Fiddle Hell people and the New Jersey City University people with the new multi-style string program there. There are a lot of very exciting things happening in the string world right now. There's some amazing performances we got a chance to check out. Some really cool clinics from people like Jesus Florido and Tracy Silverman and Julie Lyon Lieberman and Martha Mook, and just all this amazing talent all in one place. How is the weather in Orlando? I have no earthly idea. We never left the hotel. It's in the Orlando Convention Center. I stayed right there in the hotel. I was inside the whole time, which is so stupid. Like, go to Florida, get out of all this goofy, weather up here. North Carolina's like got all kinds of mental health problems. North Carolina cannot figure out if it's summer or winter or whatever it is. So yeah, we got trees blooming and flowers growing, and then it froze the other night. So I don't know what's going on here, but anyway, all that to say, man, a lot of cool people here. What's up, everybody? What's up, Noah? Yeah, Noah was there. Some of the University of Illinois people. Noah and Brando have got a new product that you guys are going to be excited to hear about when we're ready to talk about that. This camera's a little. How about that? Let's fix that. That's better. So anyway, what are we talking about today? We were talking about, does this multi-effects pedal have good sounds? And this is a question we get from a lot of people when they're buying a multi-effects pedal for the first time. They're like, does it have good sounds in it? That's a great question, but it's a little ambiguous. And I say, well, it depends on what you mean by does it have good sounds in it? Because we vet these things before we carry them. And if I can't make the thing sound good, then we're not going to carry it. So if you're asking, does the reverb sound good? Do the delays sound good? Does the chorus sound good? The answer is yes. If you're asking, do the factory presets sound good? The answer is no. No. Like pretty much no pedal out there has factory presets that sound good. Most multi-effects pedals have a bunch of factory presets in them. You're going to be very hard pressed to find one that sounds good. There's one notable exception to that, and that is the Zoom A1, the A1X or the A1X4 or the A14, any of those. They actually have, I think, 5 or 6 violin specific presets in them, and they sound great. But the vast majority of these things, they're made for guitars. The presets are made for guitars, and they don't even sound good on guitars. The whole deal with the presets in the pedals, remember the old Casio keyboards that you could get at Walmart or whatever, and there's a demo button on there, and you press demo, and it's like, right? So there's this goofy thing going, and you hear like the little bass sound, like, and you're like, wow, like who would ever listen to that song? It's horrible. It was not designed for you to get up and put that thing on stage and press demo and go, well, that was my show, everybody. Have a good time. The whole point of that was to show you some of the things that the keyboard could do, and then hopefully you would do better than that, right? So that is the point of the presets in these multi-effects pedals. They're showing you what this gear can do. Look, you can run a cabinet head, and then you can run into your phaser. Then you can run an amp head. Then you can run into phaser. Then you can run into your delay. Then you could go to the speaker cabinet, and then you could do like 5 reverbs in a row. And you go, well, you could in fact do that. You could put Fruity Pebbles in your lasagna if you really wanted to. You shouldn't, but you could. So the point of those presets is to show you some of the routing sometimes. They go, look, you can feed this delay back into a chorus pedal. And you're like, that sounds horrible. But yeah, I guess you could. And maybe that's going to give you an idea of something that you could do that will sound good, but this ain't it. So typically I would look at the structure of those things, how the blocks are organized, some of the routing that they've got, and I go, oh, okay, I kind of see what you were doing there. You know, it shows me what this pedal can do for me. I'm not going to use any of these sounds because we've had people call us up and go, well, I bought this multi-effects pedal from you guys and I went through all the sounds that were on there and they sound horrible. I'm like, well, you went through all the presets that were on there. You didn't go through all the sounds that were on there. Think of presets as like menu items at a restaurant. And then the blocks that are in there are like your ingredients. So like, it's good chicken. You know, we've got good cereal. We've got garlic. We've got spaghetti. We've got all these wonderful ingredients talking about the effects that are in there, right? The chorus, the reverb, the compressor, the amplifiers, whatever. All those are ingredients. Now, the presets are like what some drunk guy threw together trying to... So those are like menu items that an insane person came up with. No, those menu items, you're not going to eat that. You're not going to eat those. But you can take these ingredients and you can make a nice meal out of these ingredients. So what I generally recommend people do is to start from scratch. A lot of multi-effects pedals will have what they call a user bank. So you can go in and it's like, 99 presets or something and they're all empty. I got 99 presets, but no, never mind. So they'll all be empty. There won't be anything at all. And then there'll be like the factory ones. It'll show you all the whiz-bang stuff that this thing can do. They sound terrible. Just skip those. Go to the user bank. If there's not a user bank in your particular multi-effects pedal, just delete some of the factory ones. You're never going to use them anyway. Don't worry about it. And if for some insane reason you want to restore those, most of them have a factory reset thing that you can do, and it'll wipe out all the hard work you put in and put in all the insane things that they used to do if you really want to do that. Yeah, if you don't have a user bank in there, I would just delete some of the factory presets. And what I mean by that is go in, and if there's like 12 little blocks in there, just individually delete each one of them. And then you've got a completely empty preset. It's just, it's an input, and then there's a line, and then there's an output, right? So I would start there, and you're like, wait, I'm just throwing away all that stuff? Yes, you are. You spent thousands of hours learning how to play your instrument. You spent thousands of hours learning how to make a good sound come out of this instrument that you've got in your hand. Don't get lazy now. We're going to spend a couple hours, that's it, a couple hours building some sounds. You're going to ask your audience to sit there for a couple hours and listen to these sounds. The least you can do is put in a little bit of time to make them. You learned how to play the instrument. And that multi-effects pedal is an instrument. So we're going to add a little bit of time in here. It's not that bad. And we're going to get a little bit of work done, and then we're going to have some good sounds. So I'll have a completely empty preset, and then I'll probably throw an EQ block in there, probably a reverb block. And if your multi-effects has an expression pedal, I would put a volume pedal. So those 3 little blocks to get started. And then I'm going to plug it into something, and I'm going to leave everything flat on those, maybe add just a little bit of reverb. A lot of times those reverb blocks, the default setting is pretty drippy. See, it's like drippy. So maybe you want to dial that back a little bit so that it doesn't sound like, hey, Lassie, we're playing in a well. So maybe dial that reverb back a little bit, just enough to give it a little bit of space, right? And then we're going to start jacking around with that EQ to get a nice, bright, but warm, crisp, clear sound on the instrument. Generally, I would do subtractive EQ, which means I'm much more likely to turn something down than I am to turn something up. And the way that works is you're like, well, I would really like to boost some highs. What I would generally do is I would pull down the mids. And so if I've got highs and mids, if I could boost my highs, or if I pull down my mids, doesn't that pretty much have the same effect, right? So subtractive EQ is usually better. We could get into why that is if you really want to know. But in general, I would do subtractive EQ. So let's kind of monkey around with that EQ a little bit to get the instrument to sound right. Depending on how specific that EQ can be, I generally, on an electric violin, will pull out a little bit of, say, 3 or 4K. And that's because most electric violins use piezo pickups, and piezo pickups can be a little much in that 3 to 4K range. I will also usually turn down anything under about 200 hertz, depending on whether I've got a 4, 5, or 6 string violin. If it's a 4-string violin, I would set a high pass filter at about 200 hertz. If it's a 6-string violin, I would generally put a high pass filter at about 100 hertz. 5-string, 150. You guys can do the math. So generally, that's where I would start. I'd get a high pass filter in there, and then I'd sort of scoop out a little bit around 3 or 4K. Probably, I won't necessarily do it before I start, but I'm pretty much prepared to do that. Play the instrument, listen to that EQ, and then shut that EQ off and listen to the instrument without it. And if you think it's better with your EQ settings on there, then, keep going. And that's with the guy who taught me how to run sound. That's, I kept asking, what's this button do? What's this button do? What's this knob do? He got tired of hearing me ask these things. And he said, hey, man, it's the knob. Turn it. If it makes it sound worse, turn it the other way. So you can experiment with these things. You're not going to hurt anything. Once you get a sound that you're fairly happy with, save that preset. And then save this real simple one, the EQ, reverb, and volume pedal. Save that and just call it bass or something. Like, that's based. That's as the kids say. So save that one as your bass preset. And then the next one you're going to work on, copy this one to the next spot. And then you can modify that one. Maybe I'm going to put in, I'm going to put in a chorus or a reverb, or I'm going to add some delay or whatever. So that first one that you created, just EQ, verb, volume, that's going to be your bass preset. And then that's the one that I would copy and make everything else off of that one. Remember, and this is a thing that my professor at University of Illinois said, we spend so much time surrounded by buttons and knobs that sometimes we forget that we actually play an instrument, right? So don't forget that you actually play the violin or the cello or the viola or the iwi or whatever it is that you're playing. It's a thing. So if you want to hear something a little bitier, I would start with the right hand. Let's try to get that a little bitier. Let's dig in a little more and see if that gives us the sound we want. A lot of people, they get buttons around them and they start thinking, well, I'm going to reach for that every time I want something different. When you're playing your acoustic violin, if you want a different sound, what do? You play it different because you don't have any buttons or knobs to turn. Don't forget that you know how to do that. Okay, so sometimes we try to do too much. We're expecting the pedal to do something for us that we really should be doing ourselves. I saw somebody post the other day about that they'd put a vibrato pedal on their setup, and I was like, you have a left hand, right? You can just play the vibrato. Now, if you're a beginner and you're trying to figure out how to get these sounds and you don't know how to play vibrato, I'm not mad at you. But if you can play with vibrato, just play with vibrato. I wouldn't try to get a vibrato pedal. I would just play with vibrato, right? If you need a volume, could be a little different, but in a lot of cases, I'm going to use my volume pedal to lower my volume if I still want to play really strong. I want that timbre of a strong attack with the bow, but I want it to sit back in the mix a little more, right? Because we change timbre when we lighten up our bow hand. I still wanted that heavy timbre. Maybe I'll back off with my volume pedal, or maybe I want a lighter timbre. So then I'll just ease off with my right hand. I don't have to touch the volume pedal at all. So again, just remember technique first, then effects. You are a musician. We should act like a musician. So then what are the effects that I would try next after I've got my bass preset made? I would say delay, chorus, distortion, phaser, flanger. Those are probably the next 4 that I would go after. And generally, like I said, the default setting on these blocks is going to be a little intense. So I might drop that delay pedal in there and it's like, hello, 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 hello. You're like, well, it's a little much. Maybe we need to dial that back some. Chorus is another one of those. A lot of times the the default chorus setting will be, and that's a little much. So I would slow it down and make it shallower. And what it's going to do is going to spread that violin out and just make it feel a little heavier, right? Distortion is another one. And I did a whole video on distortion. It was effects for people who don't want effects. And distortion was one of those that we can really warm up a sound by using distortion. And I don't mean like, I mean like dial it way back. And on a scale of 0 to 10, like 0.5. And sometimes it's just enough that when you're playing single notes, you can't really even hear that distortion at all. If you play a double stop, you can just start to hear a little bit of grindiness in there. Grindiness, is that a word? And that's what that will do, is it will just warm up your sound a little bit. What I will usually do is I will dial these things way back, and then I'll A/B it. I'll play the sound, and then I'll shut that block off and say, okay, can I hear the difference if I've got that block on versus off? And then if it's a fairly subtle difference, maybe I'll juice it up a little more. And then I'm kind of trying to decide, do I want this to be like a subtle effect, or do I want this to be pretty much in my face? So that's when I will generally start with the more subtle ones. And then once you've started and you've got that sound saved, always go back and A/B it with your bass preset. So that's the one that I was happy with at the beginning, right? So just EQ, reverb, and volume. And you're probably going to find about half the time you're going to work really hard to get this new sound. Okay, I saved this preset into slot number 5. And I'm going to go back and check it against slot number 1, my bass preset. And I'm going to be like, oh, snap. I actually like that bass preset better. Because sometimes it's addition by subtraction. So I would generally try to sort of, we're going to touch it up just a little bit, and then I'll save this as something else. And again, most of these multi-effects pedals have got 100 or more locations for presets. So don't be afraid to experiment. If you think you've got something even remotely close to new, just save it, right? And then maybe later on, we're going to go, well, I've got these 3 that I was trying to build this warm, rich sound. I like the 3rd one the best. Just delete the other 2. It's no big deal. So, yes. Yeah, so that's more or less what I've got for you guys. There's some great comments in here. But yeah, Dan, this is what happens. And I've been doing this. I've been messing with multi-effects pedals for probably 20 years, and I do it. I've got my presets that I've got built now, and I'm like, ooh, Line 6 came out with some new stuff, so I'm gonna modify this preset. And I'm like, oh man, this thing sounds so much better than the old one. And I go back and listen to the old one. I'm like, no, it really doesn't sound better than the old one. I'm really sad. I just spent like an hour tweaking on this thing, and I thought it was better, but it's not. And it's fine. It's no big deal. You're learning how to make these adjustments. Oh, if I turn that knob, boy, I really like what it does there. And then sometimes you'll still listen back to a recording of yourself, something you did a week ago, and you listen back, you go, man, I remember enjoying that tone more than I enjoy it now. So it's a lifelong process. Be patient with yourself. It's going to take time. But I would say generally, let's start with something very, very simple. EQ, reverb, volume. That's your bass preset, and then we'll build everything else off of that. Any other questions, people? I'm happy to take questions. Like I said, I've been messing with multi-effects pedals for probably 20 years, and I've probably owned 10 or 15 of them, like very, very different ones. I remember one of the old, gosh, I don't even remember who made it. It was blue. Had like an LCD screen on the front, or LED screen, like the old, had like the 0 was like 6 little, dashes or something, and it had a tube in it. I think my RP something. I started with that probably back around the year 2000, maybe even before that. So I've been at this a while. I'm happy to answer any questions you guys got. I think I'm going to be in town next week. but I don't know if we're going to be able to do one of these or not. I'm going to be in Illinois this weekend. I'm going up to play in the first ever, how exciting is this? The first ever doctorate recital for electric violin. My friend Chuck Bontrager is finishing up his doctorate degree in electric violin, and I'm going to be playing in his chamber music recital, which is going to look a lot more like a rock show. But yeah, laser lights, big LED screens, the whole thing, all that stuff. Drummers, bass players, I think maybe a guitar player. And then who else is playing this? Rachel Barton Pine is playing. Chuck is playing. Chuck Bontrager. Joe Denenzone is playing. Noah is playing. Sylvia Pine is playing. She's 11 or 12 years old, and she would hurt a lot of adults' feelings. She is a force of nature. Who else is playing? Greg Byers is playing. Z Crane is playing. It's like a who's who of electric string players, all coming in to play for Chuck in his doctorate recital. It's going to be live streamed on his Facebook page. So if you guys are not friends with the future Dr. Bontrager, you should find him on the socials. And this is going to be, yes, LW. It will be streamed on Chuck's personal Facebook page, if I believe. Ooh, Nick Hyde's going to be there. Ooh, I'm happy. Now I'm all very happy. That makes me happy. Dan, I don't know. I'm not in charge of that. Probably not. Oh yeah, Caleb, thank you. So one of the cool things about the Helix that I use and the HX Stomp, I use both of those. I'm actually going to take my HX this weekend because it fits in my backpack. Some of these multi-effects pedals, all of them pretty much, you can hook up to your computer with a USB cable. A lot of them have editors that are on your computer, and it makes it a lot easier to edit these things. And you can share your presets with other people because you can save them. You can back them up. You're like, well, whatever happens if somebody pours a beer into my multi-effects and all these sounds that I've built over the years are just gone. Not if you've backed them up on your computer. And so all the Helix stuff is backed up on my computer. And you can share those presets with other people, or if you're greedy like me, you can sell them. So yeah, there's a whole marketplace for presets out there. Sometimes people share them, sometimes they sell them. I've got a whole lot of time in mind, so I sell them. I try to keep them very reasonable. It's like $30 for 16 presets. But yeah, so there's been a lot of you have bought those. Thank you. And I've had really good feedback from people on these. And if you study those presets that I've put out there, most of them are pretty simple. It's there's not anything super complex about the routing of these. It's a little bit of juice here and a little bit of juice there. And you've got a good player on a good instrument. They don't need a ton of work to them, but a little dab will do you. Makes a big difference. Let's see. Some questions here or a comment. Nick Hyde, my introduction to effects was multi-effects. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, the multi-effects pedals, actually, most of them are modeling stomp boxes. I've been a multi-effects guy for a long time because I may only need like an auto wah on one or two songs a night. I'm not going to go buy a $300 auto wah pedal to play 2 songs a night. And plus, when I first got into this, I didn't know if I wanted an auto wah pedal. When I first got into this, I didn't know what an auto wah pedal was. So I only learned these things by digging around in my multi-effects and going, well, here's an effect. I don't know. What's it do? So you pull up the block in your multi-effects. It's free. You already paid for the thing. So I just pull in that new sound. I go, well, okay, that makes some weird sounds. I can't imagine when I would ever want to use that. But then you get on stage one night and you're like, ooh, I have an idea. That sound that I worked out last week, I bet that would work perfect right here. So, yes, this is an excellent point. I'm trying to click on it, Ken, but something's hanging up on my computer. There we go. Yeah, have a pencil and paper ready if you want to jot down some information about settings. What I do now is the lazy thing. I just pull out my phone and I'll just snap a picture of it. So on my phone, there's a bunch of pictures of like all these computer screens. Yeah. So I do that. Um, it, oh, talking about my first multi effects, I think it was before the RP 1000, maybe an RP 6 or something. I don't remember. I'd have to Google it to see. Um, any other questions? Yeah, addition by subtraction is a thing. What's up, Leo? So yeah, again, about Chuck Bontrager's doctorate chamber music recital, it will be streamed, yes. And make sure that you guys follow him because he's a beast and a super, super cool guy. He was the principal violinist or the concert master for Hamilton in Chicago for several years. I think he said he's played Hamilton somewhere in the neighborhood of like 3,000 times. And he's recently been touring with Moulin Rouge. And I think he's got a little bit of time off now to handle some recitals. He's going to be back out with Moulin Rouge. He's going to be coming through Raleigh in about a month. He's going to be staying at my house for a couple weeks while they're playing here in town. So hopefully we'll be able to get the veritable future Dr. Bontrager in here to hang out with you guys a little bit on some of these live streams. I would really dig that. And I know you guys would too. Hopefully he would. Yeah, good dude. So any good resources for learning how to incorporate with PC? Yeah, good question. So most of these multi-effects pedals, there is free software that comes with them. I know that's the case with Line 6 stuff. You just go to their website, you download the HX editor, and it's free. So a lot of these, I don't think the ME80 has it. I think the Zoom A1X does. I think there's some software. If you go to the Zoom website, there's probably, it'll say downloads or something on their website. I know the Roland GR55 does, the one that people use for MIDI. I don't know if the RP360 does. That's a thing that Tracy Silverman was using an RP360 for a long time. I think he just went to an HX Stomp now as well. But yeah, there's a lot of really, really good players using these multi-effects pedals. Helix is probably the most common that I know of among the pro players. But yeah, I think most of those multi-effects pedals that are out there, there's free software on their website, and it's designed to interface with their pedal. And I do recommend using that. It does make things a lot faster and easier. Yeah, my goodness, yeah. Ableton Live is certainly a handful. My DJ and I spent a couple hours yesterday doing some stuff where he was handling the effects on my violin in Ableton while I was playing. And we actually do a lot of that anyway in our act, where Ableton, the cool thing is Ableton can do a lot of your effects for you, and or it can fire effects changes in your multi-effects pedal. So if your multi-effects pedal has a USB connection, okay. Yeah, Chris tells me that the ME80 does have an interface for your computer. So it's called Boss Home Studio. That's a very Boss Home Studio you have. So yeah, you can hook up your ME80 to your computer and use the Boss Home Studio and control it from there. And that's very cool. I like that. Yeah, Line 6 interfaces very, very well with Ableton, and you can put Ableton commands in. When I do my version of the Bach Partita number 3, we call it Bach Partita 3.1, there are effects changes sometimes multiple times in a measure. And we're playing 120 beats a minute, so it's a half a second to every beat. So sometimes there are effects changes every half of a second, and the Ableton and the Helix can fire all those exactly in time every time. I don't have to be up there tap dancing while I'm trying to play something, and it can do it every time. Or if I get all excited and I want to improv something, I can override that with my feet and just say, hey, I know you had some ideas that we programmed before, but I'm taking over now. And you can override those things with your feet. And from an improvisatory standpoint, you can do that. Any other questions? I don't know. So Yeah, as always, if you guys have ideas of topics that you want me to cover, I'm open to these things. I have to come up with one of these ideas every week. It is not easy. I came up with this idea last night, just kind of watching some of the comments that I see online. If you guys have topics you would like me to cover, I will do my best. So just you can dump those in the comments section. You can send us a DM or something on any of our socials, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. I'm the world's oldest TikToker. All that. Answer no. No. I love telling people no. So, oh, you know what? I just noticed there's a bunch of you guys watching on YouTube. This is the first time I've actually tried to multi-stream to Facebook and YouTube at the same time. And I was trying to figure out, like, why are there different, I don't have my reading glasses on, but why are there different colors on here? Some of you guys are watching on YouTube. Hey, YouTubers, welcome. We do this live stream on Facebook we do this on every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Oh, right. So the answer to the question is, do the presets on multi-effects pedals sound good? Generally, no. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They don't sound good. The exception that I mentioned earlier is the Zoom A14 or A1X4. They sound great. They've got some violin-specific presets that sound fantastic. I sold one of those units to someone who plays at my church, and I'm one of the sound engineers at my church, so I've had the opportunity to mix her while she's playing through this unit, and she just used a bone stock preset in this with her Bridge Aquila violin. Sounds amazing. Sounds great. Through the PA, we got a big stereo PA at the church. Sounds really nice. Yeah, I mean, she's a fantastic player too, so it sounded good. But that was, yeah, so the Zoom A1 pedal, and up until like a year ago when this pedal came out, I would have been like, listen, I don't recommend using anything with them ZOOM letters on it. But that pedal is really fantastic. I dig it a lot. So, Seth Warren, you could have me as a sound guy. All you got to do is fly me out to wherever you are. I'll do it, man. Have ears, we'll travel. Any news on F and B flat string availability? Yes, but nothing that I can share yet. So, yes, there is news. There is movement. I don't think there is a commercially available product ready, but there are some people working on these things. I think I'm going to be messing with one prototype maybe this week and another one in a couple of weeks. So there is movement on that front. And believe me, as soon as these things are commercially available, I will let you know. So yes, that's very exciting. I'm actually headed out to Los Angeles in another couple of weeks for the NAMM show. I've got a bunch of meetings scheduled with people out there. So yeah, I just got back from Orlando, headed to Chicago this weekend. Los Angeles in another couple of weeks, New York a few weeks after that. Yeah, Bizwadeep. So the thing about Vipers, I hope you're patient, because you can order a Viper and we can get you on the list. Demand for these things is through the roof. Supply is coming. The supply is ramping up very rapidly, but there have been a number of things that have kind of inhibited Wood Violin's ability to make these things as fast as they want to. We're addressing all those things, and the violins are coming out. So yes, you can order a 7-string Viper from us. You can give us a call or an email, info@electricviolinshop.com, and we can help you get that in. You will not get it this month. To say that you will not be getting your Viper this month or next month or the month after that. But they're coming. So it's coming. The instruments are available. They are making them. There is a really, really substantial backlog because demand is high, because it's an amazing instrument. But yeah, you're going to need to be a little bit patient, but yes, we can help you. And they are making the instruments. I just talked to Mark Wood like 3 days ago. And yes, they are coming out of the factory, but you are kind of going to be at the end of a rather substantial line. But that's, sometimes that's what happens when there's a very popular product and a global pandemic, and 3 of the people who work in the shop die in the course of a couple of years. So, yeah, give us a holler and we can help you order a Viper. Yep. Any other questions from anybody? If not, we had great attendance today. Thank you guys for hanging out. And I'm going to do my best to do one of these next week, but I'll be just flying in from Chicago, so I don't know how much time I'll have to put a topic together. At a minimum, maybe we'll just hang out and I'll take some questions or something. Maybe we'll play some instruments for you. I'll do some tricks. I can juggle. Yeah, and I'll see you next week. All right. Peace, everybody. Nick and you guys, Noah, I'll see you this coming week. How about that? That's awesome. Let's go celebrate the future Dr. Bontrager together. So, all right, everybody, I will see you soon. All right. Boom.